As we all know, the true victims of every Islamic terrorist attack are not the actual victims of the attack, or their families, or their friends, or the population that the attacks are meant to terrorize. The true victims of every Islamic terrorist attack are Muslims who have to live in constant fear of that frightening but mythical creature, the anti-Muslim backlash. Within hours of an ISIS-inspired jihadi plowing through innocent civilians on a New York City bike path, NBC News was already diverting our attention away from the people who were slaughtered in the name of Allah towards the real victims, Muslim Americans who were again bracing for an attack by that shadowy figure last seen in hazy photos of Lake Loch Ness, the anti-Muslim backlash. 2 days later, Mike reported that Muslim New Yorkers are still bracing themselves for hate crimes after Tuesday's terrorist attack. But there's a new victim of Islamic terrorist attacks. Unsatisfied with intimidating peaceful Muslims, the anti-Muslim backlash has set its sinister gaze on a defenseless expression, Allahu Akbar. Thankfully, the New York Times rushed to the defense of poor, helpless, unarmed Allahu Akbar with multiple articles such as, "I want Allahu Akbar back," and "Allahu Akbar," an everyday phrase tarnished by attacks. The Huffington Post laments that this phrase is being hijacked by extremists who ignore its purely spiritual significance. Allahu Akbar is an Arabic phrase that translates to "God is greater." In the wake of a deadly attack in New York on Tuesday, this inherently spiritual phrase is being used in a different context, to signify a link to political terrorism. In an article titled "What Allahu Akbar Really Means," CNN reminds us that the phrase is a celebration of life. And, not surprisingly, before the bodies of the New York City victims had even gone cold, America's princess of Sharia compliance, Linda Sarsour herself, tweeted, "Every believing Muslim says Allahu Akbar every day during prayers. We cannot criminalize God is great. Prosecute the criminal, not a faith." Can you believe the nerve of all the anti-Muslim bigots forming a negative opinion of an expression that's shouted whenever jihadis are killing their friends and families? And can you believe that the senseless fear of Allahu Akbar goes all the way back to the time of Muhammad? After the Muslim community moved from Mecca to Medina, Muhammad wanted an official call to prayer, but he couldn't figure out how to do it. He thought about using a trumpet like the Jews did, but he liked the Jews less and less as they continued rejecting him as a prophet, so he decided to use a kind of gong, translated as clapper in the English translation of Ibn Ishaq. Muhammad ordered the craftsmen to build the clapper nearly 14 centuries before Robert Clapper invented the modern clapper. Yet another scientific miracle for the Einstein of illiteracy, Muhammad. But then one of his followers, a man named Abdullah, received a revelation from Allah. We read about his revelation in Ibn Ishaq, page 236. Abdullah said to Muhammad, "A phantom visited me in the night. There passed by me a man wearing 2 green garments, carrying a clapper in his hand, and I asked him to sell it to me. When he asked me what I wanted it for, I told him that it was to summon people to prayer, whereupon he offered to show me a better way. It was to say thrice, Allah Akbar. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. I bear witness that Muhammad is the apostle of God. Come to prayer, come to prayer. Come to divine service. Come to divine service. Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. There is no God but Allah." When the apostle was told of this, he said that it was a true vision, if God so willed it, and that he should go with Bilal and communicate it to him so that he might call to prayer thus, for he had a more penetrating voice. Notice, Abdullah received a new revelation about Orthodox Islamic practice after Muhammad became a prophet. And Abdullah is the one who tells Muhammad what the correct practice is, when Muhammad couldn't figure it out. So when Muslims have their daily calls to prayer, they're obeying a revelation given to someone who came after Muhammad. So much for Muhammad being Allah's final prophet. I love my work. So, reporters are correct to point out that Allahu Akbar is used to call Muslims to prayer. Why on earth would we be at all concerned about this expression? Why would it bother